Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country. I hope that he will be a successful president for all Americans. This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win this election for the values we share and the vision we hold for our country.
Hillary Clinton delivering a concession speech to a room full of shell-shocked supporters after the 2016 presidential election. Joining us now, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale. Ali is out today with a new book titled Electable: Why America Hasn't Put a Woman in the White House Yet. Ali, congratulations on the book. There's so much good stuff inside that we want to ask you about. But just kind of like a big snapshot picture behind the book, which is that America, not unique in the world, but there's a lot, there are many democracies across the Europe and across the world that have had women in power for many, many years as heads of state. America just not one of them.
Yeah, we're lagging behind in that metric. And so what I try to do in this book is take the 2020 Democratic primary, which all of us lived through, which I got to report out here on this program and on MSNBC over the course of that entire primary. More women running then than ever before. And still, Democrats nominated an older white man in Joe Biden to go up against Donald Trump. They did that because they used words like electable, but also the idea that he was safe or not risky. And the question that I posed, especially after Senator Elizabeth Warren dropped out and I covered that race, was could we ever apply those words to a female candidate? And I think the answer, at least in the short term, was no, in part because we had just never seen it done before.
Ali, it's such a great subject. I think there's also something here about parliamentary systems versus presidential systems, how much money it takes, and the way that perhaps in lots of those democracies that have had women, it's been that they've risen up through the party. I want to get into some of the stories in the book because they're great. You've got wonderful reporting here that we haven't heard before. And Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator Gillibrand, saying to you that she thinks in retrospect no woman could have won in the 2020 election. Unpack a little bit what she said to you and why.
Yeah, a striking comment from one of the four senators who ran in 2020. And I got to do interviews with almost all of them, with the exception of Vice President Kamala Harris, who chose not to speak with me for this book, despite the fact that she has been elevated further than any woman has been in our system of government. But, Katty, I was struck by the fact that Senator Gillibrand said to me that she thought that in this cycle, they needed to nominate someone like Joe Biden because of the way that he was considered safer than the other candidates. And in Gillibrand's words, she said that to be a woman in this presidential system still is new and still carries some risk in the minds of voters. And certainly, as you and I were out there on the campaign trail covering 2020, riskiness was the thing that voters wanted to avoid at all costs. But I think it really manifested in this idea that when I would talk to voters, and there were polls that bore this out during the campaign, the idea that if voters could wave a magic wand, they would have chosen someone like Senator Elizabeth Warren. But when they put it in more of a horse race context, they went with someone like Joe Biden. And in one specific poll that was done during the 2020 campaign, voters were asked what could the magic wand candidate, in this case Elizabeth Warren, change to be more electable, and they said gender. That kind of tells the whole story right there.
And you spoke to Elizabeth Warren about that experience. Tell us what she said and whether she felt she could have overcome what was presumably a sort of a hidden barrier that nobody really wanted to talk about at the time, at least not that explicitly.
Right. But this still came up, despite the fact that none of these candidates wanted to explicitly talk about the role that gender was playing. It was still something that was being brought up in real time, whether it was, as I parse out in the book, talking about gender and electability on the debate stage in Iowa in 2020 between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, whether it was Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg talking about if a woman with Buttigieg's level of experience would have been taken as seriously. Klobuchar, of course, famously remembered that her answer was she didn't think so. There were multiple moments here where gender manifested very overtly in front of the entire field. But what was striking was these women were having to talk about it and co-opt it in real time, trying to force something that was being framed as a negative in most cases, and trying to then parlay it in the minds of voters as saying, we can win and we can be electable if only you will vote for us. And I think what was striking in my conversations with Senator Warren, both for this book, but also in real time on the campaign trail was the fact that she was candid about the role that gender played. But at the end of the day, what was stunning to me is in our final interview for this book, she said that at the end of the day, she thought that it was her who couldn't get it over the finish line, not her policies, but her as the candidate.
Ali, you mentioned that debate moment between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Hillary Clinton was watching that closely. You talked to Secretary Clinton about that. She said, I believed Warren because I know Sanders. I know the kind of things he says about women and to women. And she said she wished that Warren had pushed back against Bernie in front of everybody on that stage. Some kind of striking comments from Hillary Clinton there.
Absolutely. And I was thankful for her candor in talking to me for this book, because she's someone who wasn't just watching with the perspective of being the woman to rise for the first time to the top of a major party ticket to get that nomination in 2016. She was watching as someone who was also having conversations with many of these women in real time. And one of the things that she remembers from the long breath of the primary is that in talking to especially the senators who were running for president in 2020, the idea that all of them had run in tough races before, they had all been elected to the Senate, no easy feat, but that once they entered the presidential arena, the way that gender was manifesting, the way that misogyny was manifesting was completely different. And she had conversations with them about that. But certainly that moment on the debate stage in January in Iowa was one that all of us in the press corps found remarkable, because it was really saying the quiet part out loud, the thing that organizers had been hearing at the doors as they were trying to get recruiting for their candidates, trying to make the point that voters needed to hear an answer to an electability question that couldn't actually be answered until voters actually went to the polls and voted for these women. And so the end of that chapter that focuses on this moment on the debate stage between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren is Warren being very candid in a previously off the record and now reported for the first time in this book conversation that she had with those of us who were on the campaign plane, where she says, voters tell me, everyone says to me, I would vote for you if you had a penis. This is something that the women candidates were thinking about in real time. Often they were talking about it, but it was always in the back of their minds, and certainly something voters were thinking about too.
So, Ali, how do we get past this? If women have not been elected president because women previously have not been elected president and it's seen as unsafe, how do we ever break that barrier and get past it?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because the only way that I would have written this book is if I thought that that yet that we put at the end of the subtitle was actually something that could bear out. And I do think in every conversation I had with Democrats and Republicans, former candidates and operatives, all of them believe that we are going to get there. And I think part of it, and the hope for me in writing this book, is that once you are primed to the way that bias and stereotypes can manifest in these narratives that often hurt female candidates, it levels the playing field a little bit. Because, guys, look, I'm on this show a lot. I'm a reporter first. I think that all of these candidates should be scrutinized. They should be asked tough questions. They are sometimes open to criticism. I'm not saying that you cannot do that for female candidates. What I am saying is that it's an imbalanced system right now with inequities that often tilt against female candidates, and broader than that, non-white, non-male candidates. And that's the point of this book, is to sort of look at 2020, something that we all experienced, but put a gender lens over it and show the moments that we all lived through and reported on in real time in that new light, because gender is one of those intangible things. And I think for that reason, because we can't quantify it, sometimes in the political analysis, it gets lost or it's cast aside as not important. But I think that the way that Senator Warren framed it at the end of her bid was really the jumping off point for me, which is that if you say that gender and misogyny existed in a race, people might say whiner, but at the same time, millions of women will say, what planet are you living on where you think that this is not a factor? And clearly in this book, what I try to lay out is that that's not just a feeling, it's a fact that's backed up with studies and then interviews from the people who were at the very center of this.
The book is excellent. It's full of deep new reporting. It's called Electable: Why America Hasn't Put a Woman in the White House Yet. A must read from our friend and colleague, Ali Vitale. Ali, thanks so much. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you.
We're going to take